David, I'm having difficulty making characters be meaningful to one another. Like, I can have two characters, but they're usually the same, and I hate it. Instead of individuals, I have dividuals.
Dividuals. Is that a word?
Yeah, dividuals. As in, not individs, but divids.
Okay, I know divids isn't a word.
I've got too many divids, David. I need less divid, David.
Divid?
Yes, David, divid. I need less divid, David.
Sounds like you're stuck in a stronghold, Donald.
A stronghold?
Yes, Donald, a stronghold. A stronghold of your own making, imprisoning you and your stories with no hope of breaking free. Until now.
What? Can Donald break free of the stronghold? Can Donald make characters that are different from one another in meaningful ways?
Yes, you can, Donald, with our newly patented foil. This material can be wrapped around your characters and then, once taken apart, can be reformed into a perfect foil for that character. Do you have a character who kills for pleasure, is only out for himself, and has a sword? Now you'll have a character who kills only if he needs to, works for the government, and has a gun.
Ooh.
How about a character that's calm, serious, collected, but lives in his parents' house? Then you can have another character that's irrational, manic, frenzied, but has his own place.
Those last two characters sound familiar, but I can't quite put my finger on why.
Good foils should have some familiarity, of course, Donald, and the foil will easily make them for you. Call our toll-free number or visit our website at ritwits.com/foil/David Divot/Donald Stronghold, and you can get your boxes of foil today. Get your foil before it spoils. Isn't that right, Mr. Doyle?
Huh?
Oh, never mind.
Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of The Ritwit, the show that's about the writers just as much as it's about the writing. Seriously, after nearly 150 episodes of this drivel, the listeners know us very well.
You know, it's interesting, when you watch on newscasts or, like, for my own sake, like SportsCenter, you hear all about the hosts of the show, and there was one time that ESPN did a commercial that people came up and started treating them like, oh yeah, you're my best friend because I know everything about you, and the anchor's looking at him like, I don't know you from Adam.
That's true though.
It's basically where we're at, you know,
like
because we're always putting ourselves out here.
Yeah.
And the listeners, if they choose to pay attention, know a whole lot about us, and they treat us like they're so congenial, so familiar. But honestly, we don't know most of you.
Send us fan mail, and then we can read some of it.
We can learn something about it.
But no, like, you're right, though. Like, we inject not only ourselves into what we do here, but, like, also our writing in general. Like, Megazoic, I've said this before, is 110% me. Like...
Yeah.
And that's one thing. It's like one thing I've wondered about, like, my self-esteem. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't really have very good self-esteem. And I'm like, but if I was so really focused on, like, pleasing others, which I am to a degree, why did I come out? Why was the book that I published Megazoic?
Well, and I think the reason you did it is because we have always been about writing for yourself. Whether you, on a base level, want to appease everyone, please everyone, appease, please, whatever, different, doesn't make a difference.
I want to pee on everyone.
I did not say that. Stop taking me out of context. Stop parsing me the wrong way. Anyhow, what I was saying is because we're all about writing for personal fulfillment.
Yes.
Right? That's the important piece.
It is the important piece. And, we get what we write often comes from what we read. And by that lot sort of thing that I'm trying to say, so I can say this segue flawlessly, but I can't because I can't come up with the right words. What will we rip off in this month?
I give you a B for effort instead of an A.
It was a great idea.
Hey,
terrible execution.
I was about to say, the concept was amazing, but you could not stick the landing. No marks on that.
Anyways, what are you going to rip off?
I recently finished watching The Legend of Korra.
Oh, yes.
And similar to the prequel series, it ended in a less conclusive way. I'm not going to spoil Legend of Korra, but for what it's worth...
Now, by prequel series, you mean...
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, I was going to say, because, is there... Yeah.
Yeah, because Korra is the reincarnation of the main character of that series, Aang.
Yes.
However, both Aang and Korra were younger avatars on screen.
Right.
Implying so many hijinks to come, even with, a typical lifespan.
Wait, she's reincarnated, Aang?
The Avatar cycle. They are reincarnated into different tribes.
Okay.
So literally, Aang has to die before Korra is born.
Because I thought there was an old Aang in that, but I haven't seen the show, so.
So, Aang appears
He's like a
as an
vision?
older man in a vision, but also in flashbacks.
Okay.
So
that
you
makes sense.
see a little bit more of how he lived, but not very much of what he did.
Okay.
But consider in the original show, he manages to take away the bending from Fire Lord Ozai and basically drop the curtain, call it over. What did he do with the rest of his life, you know?
It's true. He was still a kid, even though he was also 100 years old.
Well, I mean, he was frozen to be still like a child. So, you know, Korra, I believe I was reading that she is supposed to be like 21 at the end of the series.
Makes sense.
I mean, most people still have quite a bit of life left to live after that.
Yeah, I hope so.
Sometimes there have been comics that have expanded on what Korra has done, I believe.
Yes.
But I haven't read them, so I don't know.
That makes sense. Yeah, how is Korra as an old woman, basically?
Anyway, I love how this show, and to a certain extent also Avatar: The Last Airbender, they picked a point to say, all right, the rest can be explored elsewhere, rather than milking it to the bitter end.
This is how Aang got the arrow on his head.
Well, yeah, that happened before he went in the ice.
I know. This is how Korra chose her blue coats. I don't know the show.
You should watch it. They're great.
This is how Korra. Does Korra have a dog? Or am I thinking of Sokka? Or not Sokka, the whatever the girl from the first one is. Sokka's her brother.
Yes. Katara is the name.
Katara. Does Katara the one with the dog?
Katara is not the one with the dog, but Katara actually features in Legend of Korra as well.
She must be old.
Yep.
Okay.
But she was natively that age, whereas Aang was already like 100+ years or whatever.
I guess that's true.
So
she must be even older, though.
Not necessarily. I mean, once the old Avatar dies, the new one is born. That's how it works.
Yeah. But I always picture her as a little older than Aang. But even though
Katara?
Katara, yeah.
Well, she certainly acts older, but as far as like actual linear time, no way. You know?
Okay.
But I don't remember.
Anyways.
They never addressed like, oh, how old was Aang when he died, what year it was, that kind of
That's
thing.
true.
They
He
can't
could have
really-
died in a car accident, because that's the thing I like about Korra.
Pretty
There are cars.
Pretty sure that's not what happened, but nevertheless.
That's the thing. I've said this before on the show. I like that in Legend of Korra, the technology advances.
It's true.
That's
They have a time skip between book 3 and 4, and the technology advances even further
That's
there.
great. So many
amazing.
fantasy stories are just like, no, it's medieval times forever, for thousands of years.
Weird. It's like they learned from the examples of before. And speaking of which, that's something I could learn from in stories.
Yes.
There's a point at which, I don't need to develop this anymore. I can just let it be.
Right.
And that's okay.
That is okay.
Love that show and highly recommend it, by the way.
Yes.
Both The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra are available on Netflix
Yes,
for
they
those
are.
of you in the region that has it.
It the show was always popular, but apparently when it went on to Netflix, it got a huge boom in popularity.
Wouldn't surprise. I mean,
the fandom grew.
well, I mean, especially because it then comes to the attention of people who aren't necessarily watching Nickelodeon all the time.
It's true. Well, I was never a Nickelodeon person. For some reason, my channel of choice was Disney Channel. I think it's because I had 3 sisters. So
Not necessarily just because you had 3 sisters. I mean, they had a bunch of stuff geared at kids.
yeah.
But like that trinity, that Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, I watched a lot of stuff from all of them at various points. And
Right.
obviously, Donald didn't, which is fine.
I watched a bit, and yeah, if I ever, I don't know, I feel like Avatar is one of those shows that I'm very interested in. I should watch. I just don't, because I'm like, how could it possibly, be as good as everyone says it is? How I am with this Avatar is how you are about the other Avatar. Although I think I'm willing to give this Avatar more of a chance than you did about that Avatar.
I guarantee you won't regret it. But anyway, another thing that I'm thinking of ripping off, this is a little further in the rearview mirror for me, but I haven't had a chance to mention yet, so I'll
Yes.
take time here.
Yes, please.
Is from the show Ultraman Taiga.
Okay, how many Ultramans have you ripped off at this point?
A lot.
Yeah.
I'm not going to count them.
How many Ultramen? I apologize.
Whom, not who. All right, anyway. This is a relatively recent show. This one came out in 2019, but they had an episode where a local legend
Yes.
came suddenly, frighteningly real.
As in, it wasn't real up to a point when it was?
No, it was only a legend until it loomed in front of their eyes, and holy crap.
But then it was revealed that it was real the whole time.
Yeah, of course.
It's not that it like, oh, it was a legend.
But a lot of people tend to disregard it over time because so much time passes without it affecting what's going on, and it's out of the functional memory, if you're familiar with that term.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I just thought the way you were wording it was like, it'd be like if...
Oh, they just made up a story, but it happened to actually be true.
It's like, everyone thinks there's a Bigfoot up. Well, not everyone. No one does anymore, except for the crackpots, and those people with those bumper stickers that say, I believe. But everyone thinks Bigfoot is a myth.
Believe in what? It could be Santa.
No, there's actually a silhouette of Bigfoot, though.
Oh.
So I've seen quite a few people with those bumper stickers. But anyway, so...
Actually, on your point, there is a different show that does an episode on that where a local community schemes to get a bunch of tourists and money by creating a monster, only to find out that it actually exists. Whoops!
That's the thing. That could work. But no, so people are like, oh, Bigfoot's not real. And then someone's like, I'm going to make Bigfoot real. I'm going to genetically alter a gorilla, make it look more human-like, and then throw it into the Pacific Northwest. And then suddenly it's real. It wasn't before, but it is now.
I tell you, I wonder if Bigfoot is one of the most, relatable ones. And here's what I mean by that. The Bigfoot idea is similar to a Yeti, just if you put it on ice. It's similar to the Chupacabra, at least as I understand it. It's
I always imagine Chupacabra with a tail. I don't know.
But I don't know. Maybe. I could be completely wrong because I don't really pay any credence to this stuff.
Look, I don't know. Cryptozoology is one of those things that's like... cryptozoologists are hated by actual zoologists and mythologists because they're like a thing in the middle that kind of makes a mockery of both sides.
It's definitely cleaving right between the two in the lane, isn't it?
Anyways, did you know when filming for Return of the Jedi, that was filmed in the redwoods of California, the indoor.
Yeah, makes
they
sense.
Had to have a security team there to make sure Peter Mayhew, who played Chewbacca, stayed really close because they were afraid people would think he was Bigfoot and shoot him.
I'm not surprised, but that is a fun factoid. I may even have the story to utilize that kind of a local legend that finally proves to be very real.
Yes.
I already have a concept that may work for this, so I'm looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun.
It should be fun. And if you're wondering why I'm having a lot of
input on my stuff,
input and stuff, tangents, other stuff, because here's a first about me in terms of what I'm gonna rip off. I don't think I have anything. I've been so busy with work lately trying to cover for people after a mass quarantine due to someone testing positive for COVID and way too many people not being vaccinated having worked with this person.
Oh, jeez.
That I generally don't think I've watched or played or anything new the last month. Maybe.
Oh, you probably played something old or watched something ever again.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could have done that.
If you had something that's truly bam, inspiring.
I mean, there was that one time I did Sim Theme Park as with the rip-off. So... I think it was episode 34, 38.
Dang.
It was one of those, I know. So, I think it was 34. I'm going to put my foot down and say it was 34.
And if you're wrong, there will be a, boo from the audience that you're going to edit in, right?
Well, I'm not going to look it up now because I value my professionalism, but I'm willing to stake a claim on, put some money on this that it was 34. Anyway.
I'm not willing to put money on it. Whatever.
Anyways, I generally don't think I've watched or played anything new the last month. Maybe I read something? Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. So I'm going to rip off the Earth itself.
What?
This beautiful blue marble we call home. There's so much inspiration one can take from it. This tiny pale blue dot, this wonderful little sphere, all alone in the vastness of space. So little, yet so full of potential, so full of wonder and inspiration. You can see now how I got A's on papers in college where I didn't read the material, right?
You can bolt with the best of them.
Anyway, I'm a prime bolt. I guess we'll get into the next sets. But sounds like I should have ripped something off real bad, maybe
real bad, just awful,
to a point where maybe I should have done it without their permission.
And speaking of which. Okay, so listeners, to explain kind of a cryptic title for you. We had a sit down a while back trying to figure out an idea for this set, and I brought something that I'd been thinking about for a long time. And there is a story that I once tried writing, and I'll talk more about that project later, but the problem with that project was this.
Yes.
Basically, I tried using what someone else had done and insert my characters.
Oh, sounds problematic.
Very problematic. Well, we begin the new set with this flawed premise, so-called terrible story ideas. This is only one of them. We have 3 more. Well, no one idea is inherently awful in a vacuum. Sometimes there are really awful ways to birth a story germ. In addition to us ranting about why these things are not a great foot to set out with, we will attempt to at least give those of you stubbornly committed to those ideas some hope on how it might work better.
I like how you're just like stubbornly committed. Slam the table.
But enough about that. This one's awful.
Yes.
Say that you really like the work of an author, and you take it upon yourself to do your version, going so far as to publish it somewhere where said author may notice. Aside from immediate, unenforceable, based on the forum, copyright claims, and the inevitable commenter who says, "Oh, you're terrible with these characters, yo," which
I like
also
that
awful spelling.
I like that character. It's like, you're terrible with these characters.
But it's inviting criticism, all because you had the grand design of using the framework someone else built without checking first to see if they minded you doing so. I, in particular, tried wrangling my own self-made characters into a fan universe that was written in full by a different author.
Ooh.
3 guesses what the property was, and the first 2 don't count, by the way. Good thing
Spaceballs.
For it doesn't count. You got 2 more guesses.
Ultraman.
No.
Power Rangers.
You're right.
I knew it was Power Rangers.
See, the first
I was
two
trying to
don't
get
count.
closer to.
Yeah, just work your way up.
Yeah.
All right, so it's a good thing that I never finished or actually published the story. Now that my soapbox on the idea is over and basically answers the first question, what else do the twits have to say about inserting your story into someone else's universe without permission?
Are you hired by a big company who've bought the rights to some property and wants to make a new installment of said property? Then you're good to go on writing in someone else's universe. Are you anyone else, though?
Probably.
Yes. Statistically, yes. Then keep it fanfiction only. Unpublished, monetarily speaking, but published in the proper websites for others' reading pleasures. You know, that they can just look at it, read over it, not pay a dime.
Choose to lambast your work if they want.
Yep. Like, writing this way can be good practice for newer writers because the legwork in creating the world and the characters done at writing allowed you to jump straight into it. But if you want to be a professional author, you got to learn to create your own stuff in your own universe for this kind of thing. Do you remember when I was at Beezy Power, like the Bionicle forum?
I remember what Beezy Power is.
Yeah, well, I'm explaining it for the listeners.
All right.
I really like the comedy section, so I was like, let's do something that's funny. Let's rip off of Spaceballs, word for word. And I was caught right away because Spaceballs is a classic.
There are a lot of people that can figure it out.
Again, it's not like there was any legal problems there. It was embarrassing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to just boil this down, by the way, to simple fan fiction. The story I was talking about in particular, I did use my own characters. Mm-hmm. I was not using the ones that this other author created.
See, it was a Bionicle fan fiction, but with the Spaceballs script and plot and characters and.
So who are you ripping off there? No, but anyway, did you hear all of the above that I just ranted about?
Yes.
Also, it is worth noting that if you run across a gem of a person who doesn't mind you attempting your take in their framework, again, using my own characters, so this is why I assume that.
Right.
They probably will give you permission.
Yes.
But that's exceedingly rare. So if you haven't asked, best to rework the thing that it's not so obvious a ripoff. And we cannot deny the possibility that you can ask. You may even ask, only to be shot down.
I mean, yeah, but I don't think the author would have a problem with it. Again, as long as they're not making any money off of it. But
so, how can you avoid undertaking such a pitfall of a concept?
My dad always said, and I've surely said this on other episodes before, the inspiration is like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
We're all inspired by other works, but if you're only inspired by a few things, the pieces of your puzzle are very large, and you can easily see what the piece is made out of. or if you watch, read, or play or consume many, many, many different things, your puzzle pieces are a lot smaller and far harder to make out, meaning your work seems much fresher and more your own.
Now, I realize that this is completely about inspiration, but I do find it interesting that if you apply it in a different lens, that's basically the reason for liberal arts education as well.
Yeah, it is.
Because you connect things together that wouldn't otherwise make sense, like how your history stuff affects what you're learning in music class. Wow, what a shocker. You wouldn't expect that connection, but it's there.
I still remember a lot of the things I learned in like music and geography. I took a geography class for the hours. That was beyond the point where I needed something like that, but I was and I just it's good just to get a good well-rounded education.
Well-rounded education, but going back to the inspiration piece, not borrowing too heavily from any one thing.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you will naturally probably borrow a little bit from some things, just subconsciously.
Yeah.
But
sometimes unwittingly, song lyrics, if you've never heard that song, how can someone say you copied it? But it's also really hard to prove.
Right, exactly. It's like all those people that like, wasn't all those times that like someone sues Pixar or something years after something comes out? It's like, no, this is based off, you guys ripped off of my children's book, but it's really obscure. You can't really find it elsewhere.
Yeah, so how are you supposed to defend that? Anyway.
So I've seen it happen for Finding Nemo, for Ratatouille, for The Incredibles, for some other stuff. Well, The Incredibles was just Fantastic Four. Anyways, what about you?
Well, ideally, those jigsaw pieces of inspiration aren't so wholly dependent on one thing that you haven't asked to use.
Yes, it's true.
Step 1, ask.
Yes.
Step 2, this is a branch path.
Yes.
If permitted, write your story, likely trying to minimize the use of their characters since they'll be harder to write accurately.
Right.
If no, rejigger until you have something that doesn't require their permission in the first place.
Rejigger sounds like a slur.
And it may take a while, by the way.
Yes.
Step 3, check with the original author before doing anything that might earn you money while leaving them in the cold.
Yes.
If you haven't noticed, by the use of heavy sarcasm, and my rants on the subject by making these damn questions, this is the crucial point of why plagiarism is bad, children. Don't do it!
If you plagiarize, you may fail the assignment, fail the course,
fail
college, fail college, fail life. You'll go to hell if you plagiarize. But yeah, like, no, that's the thing about those puzzle pieces. Like, my dad would always tell me that in the early days of my writing career to make my puzzle pieces smaller. And I think I've done okay, I guess. Who knows, though?
Depends. How much are you borrowing from real life versus fiction?
Well, everyone borrows from real life.
Well, but the point is, if you're using people who actually existed in history, like, Nikola Tesla.
Hey, who? Who is that man?
Who is that guy?
He sounds interesting.
Really interesting.
I knew a Nikolai in college. No, I didn't. My dad has a Tesla. Are you talking about the car?
Sure. More like the guy who the car is named
It is
for.
Depressing. How many times would I've explained my idea of Tesla to someone?
And people think it's based on the vehicle.
Car, yes. They're like, oh, so you're writing about Elon Musk in the car. I'm like,
I don't know if you'd ever want to write about Elon Musk, but boy, there's a whole lot to be told there.
He is basically a modern Tesla in all the good and all the bad. At least he has money, so he's far more successful than Tesla was. But anyways, basically, consume more content. Consume.
Well, I mean, the more you experience, the more things you can pull in, and the less it becomes carbon copy of only.
Yes.
Or obviously.
Yes.
So that's the point.
Yes.
But hey. Let's give the writer trying their best to do this a ray of hope.
Yes.
How do you exceed the limits of such an awful germ to make the story good content?
What are the key things that make the universe you're trying to write about that particular universe? Are they things you can change in your story without much issue? Then change them. Are they tied directly into your story? Then start over or do a major rework. Does that sound like too much work? Then maybe,
probably is.
Then maybe you should have written within your own universe in the first place. Am I being harsh? Maybe, probably. I've never really been into fan fiction. I did write a few Bionicle fanfics as a youngin'.
And again, I want to make sure that people understand this isn't expressly like the same as what people think of in fan fiction.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very specific type of taking someone else's existing structure and putting your imprint on it.
Yes, exactly.
That does not mean this is going to be bad, but it's not going to be received very well if people understand what you did, especially if you did that with no permission from the original creator.
Exactly. So, but what about you? Yeah.
That said, the story itself had something that compelled you to try.
Yes.
With or without the prior approval of the original creator.
Right, of course.
How do you emphasize that and blaze new trails?
Yeah.
Maybe a twist they wouldn't have envisioned because they're not you.
Ooh.
Putting your own self-created characters in the frame that they constructed and take it your own way.
Mm-hmm.
Which, to be in my defense, was what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
With the story I'm talking about. And I'll tell you about that in the next question. But anyway, these don't have to be bad stories if you're a really good writer crafting from an already superb framework.
Well, it's like, I don't know, like, there are certain things that, like, you can, like, kind of get inspired by, and it's a thing that's a lot of people, like, might get the influence but see what's different about it. Like, when Die Hard came out, the whole idea of it was this one guy stuck in a kind of a contained area with some baddies trying to deal with it. So there were a lot of movies that have been described as Die Hard, but like on a boat, on a bus, in a plane, whatever. Like,
why are there motherfucking snakes on his mother? Oh wait, that's not the reference.
I mean, no.
Airplane came out way before Die Hard.
That was Snakes on the Plane. Is actually,
Snakes on the Plane. Anyway,
yeah, Airplane came out
way
before that.
I was right. Not saying
Snakes
the
on
right
the Plane
title.
came out way after Die Hard, but like Speed was basically considered Die Hard on a bus. So, like.
And I'm just thinking the writers' room when they're trying to set up this meeting. The idea team is like, okay, all right, hey, hold out. Here's my pitch. Die Hard.
Yes.
On a moving bus. That's great.
That's great. But why is the bus moving? Couldn't they just stop the bus?
We're not going to continue this pitch.
I mean, you know the plot of Speed, right?
No. I've never watched Die Hard either.
Okay. The plot of Speed is that there's a bomb on the bus that will automatically go off if you go below 45 miles an hour. So,
makes sense.
So they had to figure out how to disarm it while driving it all around L.A. or something. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, anyways,
LA,
I bring
great,
this up.
Go ahead.
I bring this up because those are all like clear things that are clearly inspired by this sort of general framework of like, like a couple people enclosed trying to figure out the issue, like the action issue, and fight some bad guys in enclosed space. But then the movie Skyscraper comes along. Remember this?
Not very well.
You see the trailers for it at all? And
I don't think I did.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Okay. Maybe I saw a CV spot for it.
Yeah, like is a guy with a leg that like a fake leg, and he's some sort of.
And eventually he's like free falling on the outside of a skyscraper.
Well, the plot is basically Die Hard, but it's a sky
in a building.
But Die Hard was in a building.
building, yeah.
So this building is just slightly more advanced in sci-fi.
Slightly taller.
Slightly taller and more sci-fi. Like weird sci-fi tropes. That make it kind of cool. But people immediately noticed and were like, and then it didn't do that.
But, I mean, the difference is the people involved in that.
Yes.
And not to say that these stories are smart from the idea of you're basically plagiarizing, but if you're putting other people in those roles, if you're putting other people behind the camera, it's not going to come out exactly the same no matter what you do.
Of course not. So,
but let's be honest. People may not appreciate you aping someone's hard work if that source of inspiration is so obvious to them.
Right. But what if...
Like if I had published this story on the forum where the original author also published all of the stories leading up to this thing, I'm pretty sure people would have looked at that and said, what the heck, man? You probably didn't get any permission to do this, and you're basically taking his characters out so you can put your characters in. And they probably would prefer his characters.
It was called an OC fanfic. So, for more on that.
We did decide on fanfiction.
Anyways.
That said.
Yes.
We are getting into the realm. This is these are going to be basically fanfics at their core.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're self-inserts, maybe they're OCs in the fanfiction, whatever. But if you're really proud of your fanfiction and you just have to publish it, what are some ways you can, legally speaking, of course?
Technically, from a legal standpoint, all you have to do is change the names. If you do that and change nothing else, it's no longer theft, it's just a ripoff. Which technically isn't illegal, but people will call you out for it. You should probably do more than that to make it your own. Like, by far the most shining example is...
The best example. In fact, it's so shiny that it's like dull metal gray style, right?
50 Shades worth, you might say.
Might even.
Like, the wonderful, beloved masterwork that started out as fanfiction of that other wonderful, beloved masterwork known as Twilight.
Peek behind the curtain, listeners. I was literally thinking about taking a drink of water, but saw what he was about to say, and I decided probably shouldn't do this right now because I knew I was going to snort it out.
You got a corpse. You got a corpse. But speaking of corpses, there are no vampires in 50 Shades, you might say. So it's hard to tell. But
well, I mean, they don't usually leave corpses if they're still undead walking around, right?
Well, I'm just saying maybe the vampires themselves are the corpses. I mean, they're so pale. They're dead inside. They need the blood.
They don't even have a reflection.
It's true. You ever tried to hold up a corpse? Next time you ever enact the plot of Weekend at Bernie's, you try and hold Bernie up to the mirror. There's no reflection.
Why is my hand clenched here with nothing on it?
You know the plot of Weekend at Bernie's, right?
No, because I've never seen that one either.
I've never seen it either, but basically it's like Bernie dies. I think it's Bernie. It might not even be Bernie.
It'd be hilarious if it wasn't.
And then they decide to, because they have some sort of family gathering. I've never seen it. I just know the basic premise of it. So they fake him being alive.
Yeah.
Being alive. So they walk him around. They say they're putting him to sleep.
They parade him and say, you know what? And he's just a great guy, but he's not feeling very well. That's why he looks so pale.
Yeah. Don't worry, guys. Just leave him alone. He's dead tired. But don't take that out of context. He's not dead. He's just very, very tired.
Do you remember the sketch show?
Yes.
On Nickelodeon? It's
all that. All that. Yeah. No, but I've heard of it.
Okay. There was one.
Isn't that where Amanda Bynes' career started?
Yeah, and a couple others like I think Kenan Thompson, Kel Mitchell were also on that show. Anyway, there was one skit that they did called Literals.
Mm-hmm.
And the literals, by their very nature, were taking everything seriously. And to the one person who was not in the family, he thought it was hilarious. And so at the very end, he said, "Oh, you literals just kill me." And they're like, "Are you sure?" "Yes, it's amazing." And so they're like, "Okay." And so they start picking up knives and implements to kill the guy.
Anyways.
Sorry, bad jokes, making on other bad jokes aside.
But
I mean, that's definitely an example.
I wish I had better examples. But point is, reworking your stories in other universes to work as standalone published material can be done. It has been done. In fact, quite a lot.
I'm sure there are more that we aren't thinking of. Let us know. But before we get to where you can tell us that, because I have to answer.
Speaking of Die Hard, though, real quick.
All right.
Every Die Hard movie, with the exception, I think, of the fifth one, was not originally meant to be a Die Hard movie. It originally was like a sequel to this movie, a sequel to this movie, a sequel to this movie.
But they just slapped on the Die Hard title.
Yeah, they were just like, okay, never mind, this isn't going to work with this. We can't get the rights. Let's just make a Die Hard. So, the only Die Hard movie that was meant from the beginning to be a Die Hard movie
was the first one.
It's the fifth one. I don't even think the first one was. I don't know.
Why? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that for a subsequent entry into the series when you named the first one? Like that? All right, whatever.
I'm just saying, they were going to have this idea of some more thing, and then they're like, actually, no, this isn't going to work. Let's make an original property and call it Die Hard. I don't know. That sounds kind of cool.
Live free and die hard.
Anyways, continue. What do you think?
Okay, so with thought of legal recourse, I suppose it depends on the property that you're ripping off. In the case of mine that inspired this whole topic, in fact, and inspired this whole set after a little bit more thinking, I ran into the work on a fan forum.
Yes.
Aside from the hornet's nest that any passionate fandom can be for a fledgling creator, like oh my God, learn spell check, or how do you punctuate anything, or what is capitalization, or why are you doing this story? This person did it way better, or you're screwing up my favorite character. What the hell are you doing, man?
What's capitalization? Do you mean that thing that's the big problem in the world right now?
Big problem. No, wait, that's capitalism. Anyway,
No, I know.
I'm just glad I figured out where you're wanting to go with that.
Yes.
Anyway, aside from that hornet's nest, walking into that willingly, there are literally zero reasons.
Yes, it's literally
you
zero.
Couldn't
Yes,
put out your
literals.
work.
Sorry, continue.
There are no reasons that you could not put out your work, so long as it wasn't such obvious plagiarism.
Yes.
Like copy, paste, find, replace, name changes here, that type.
Well, and even then, though, again, we've harped on Christopher Paolini here.
I was thinking about bringing that up earlier, and I didn't. Are we going to bring it up here, then?
Sure!
The April Fool's Day joke where someone went onto Wikipedia and in the plot of Aragon, it's like, see Star Wars A New Hope or whatever.
I love that. That was great. Hey, did I tell you that I was at the airport the other day? And, it was when I was actually going on a trip to visit some family friends. So it wasn't the other day. It was like a couple months ago. And I was going through like...
What is time, anyway?
Especially nowadays.
All right, go ahead.
Anyways, I was at the bookstore there just to see what was there, and Christopher Paolini has a new fantasy series.
Oh, very cool.
Good on him. I thought he was done, but no, he's not.
Hey, he has another story to tell. That's amazing.
Maybe he's ripping off of Star Trek this time. Nah, I'm sure he's fought. I've heard he's a very nice guy.
No. It wouldn't be Star Trek. It's infinitely better than that. Spaceballs.
Oh, ripping off the ripoff. Oh, okay. Anyways.
But once you move beyond the confines of the internet and free expression and all of that,
I would never, but yes.
You wouldn't have much legal standing without express consent.
Yes.
Of course, if you change enough that it seems to stand alone regardless of your original source, that becomes a bit less skeezy and maybe permissible.
Maybe. But
that's not simply replacing names. It's possibly altering story concepts until it isn't so obvious a derivative.
Yes, of course.
Now, keep in mind that I seem really negative on this idea because I censored myself enough to not publish it on a forum where ravenous reviewers are liable to insult you, call out how obvious the inspiration is,
right.
or just generally lambast your effort despite what quality the story may possess, all because they're familiar with the original.
That is the risk you run.
I suppose it's a good moment to explain what I keep referring to.
Yes, what is this? Please.
Years ago.
Please say this example.
There was a very good writer
Yes.
who published Power Ranger fanfiction and tied all of their series together into a crossover story.
Ooh.
I thought it was awesome, ambitious, and I enjoyed reading all the individual entries leading up to this massive work.
Yeah.
Thought I could use that frame but substitute my own characters and build on the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so obviously copped if you don't know the original, nor was it like I ripped off the original TV series in any way. But since I never asked the author if I could use the existing structure at all, I eventually scrapped the project.
Right.
Could I use that thing in another place? Not without reminding myself I owe it to that story, which wasn't even my idea. So I may never get to finish that idea using my characters because it isn't fair to the creator who started the concept.
That is a different thing as opposed to like fan fiction where you're ripping off of something that, is like from someone like who is, got their story published, or like there's something big, there's something like something big and huge like Power Rangers. No, this is ripping off of another fanfic. Like
right.
that's different. Like that's definitely different. Like,
and there's really no such thing as plagiarism in this instance because I wasn't using his characters. I was using my own.
Well, and again, yeah.
But people might not look at that fondly,
mm-hmm.
even if I did a good job on the story, which I'm not saying I was as good a writer as this person.
Right.
However,
yes,
I think that we should probably move on to other topics in this set.
Yes.
So I'd say that's it for this week.
I would say so too. That is, in fact, it for this week. A huge thank you to all our patrons so far, including Matthew H.
Thank you so much. Your support means the world to us.
Yes, very much. Contact us at mattd@matthewdonaldcareer.com for any general questions to either co-host.
Or if you have better examples of things that have been turned from
one property and published as its own separate thing, so we don't have to harp on 50 Shades of Grey / Twilight.
Yes.
That'd be
I did
wonderful.
say the Die Hard stuff, but
Well, you did, but
yeah. Anyways, follow me on Matthew Donald Creator on Facebook, at Matthew Donald 64 on Twitter, and Matthew Donald 64 on Instagram. Why 64? Because that's how many times I've been ghosted on dating apps this year.
jeez.
My self-esteem is at an all-time low. Life is great, David. Speaking
Great.
of Facebook and Instagram, man, it was a bit scary earlier today when recording, which, by the way, will be pretty much... I mean, this will be yesterday when you hear this,
All
if you're
of
a patron,
yesterday if
or
you're
the
a
day
patron.
before if you're hearing this when it comes out. When it normally comes out. But man, Instagram and Facebook and Facebook in general, and the servers that Facebook runs, which includes Instagram, WhatsApp, and a bunch of other stuff, they all went down for hours. It was terrifying. Like, I know people are like, oh, but Facebook is terrible. It is terrible. It is absolutely terrible. Mark Zuckerberg is a terrible person. But so many marketplaces, so many businesses, smaller businesses rely on Facebook that we kind of need it to just be there. It should get its act together.
I seem to recall once telling Donald's dad that Facebook is not inherently good or bad. It's enjoying the good parts of it, the things that it's ostensibly for, connecting with people you haven't talked with in a long time.
Well,
and giving up Facebook, you'd lose that.
Yes. Well, and also, another good thing about it is the Facebook groups. Anyways, not into that. I'm glad we're talking about that, though, rather than me being ghosted that much.
Trying to build up that self-esteem.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's so low.
we have managed to writ the good writ.
And write the good rights.
But until next time,
I'm Matt Donald.
I'm Matt David. Us two twits have twitted ourselves out. And keep doing that. Stay safe, all that fun stuff. And we'll see you back
wash
next
your hands,
week
get a vaccine, all that stuff.
with another awful story idea.
Or multiple.
Or multiple.
You'll have to see.
The
I need less to vid, David.
Sounds like you're stuck in a stronghold, Donald.